always do, send that message in on WhatsApp. Don't be shy. Talk to us. We love to read from you. 0911 991 0911 is the WhatsApp number. Short messages, concise. Just try to make them easy for me to read. I beg of you. All right, joining me this morning to take a look at the stories, give their analysis, and we try to make sense of everything that we'll be reading this morning because, yeah, very interesting lineup of stories. Lakunle, Yusuf, Devoe, Okorie are joining us on Zoom. Lakunle, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C in the studio. Good morning to the man in the jungle and of the jungle, Mr. Devoe. Good morning, everyone, from wherever you're hearing us. Hey, Ramadan is 15 days and Lent is also 15. So
Mm.
quick, so quick. May the Almighty accept and answer and hear all our prayers.
Amen to that. 15 days just like that. Time is definitely flying by. Devoe, good morning to you. Welcome in.
Yeah, good morning, world. Lagos, smooth. AY, see, Lakunle, cool. Tax, Topo. Tax is plenty.
Oh, yes, tax is plenty. Fool the ground, as they say. Mr. C, good morning to you. Welcome into the show.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Devo. Good morning, Lakunle. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, virtual listeners. Good morning, boys, city, village. Let's roll.
Let's roll into the Vanguard and begin this conversation talking about tax to plenty, as Devoe actually alluded to. Well, total value added tax earnings rose to about 1.08 trillion naira in January as a new sharing formula commenced, altering how the proceeds are split among the federal government, the states, and the local governments. That's according to findings by the Punch. Now, documents presented at the February meeting of the Federation Account Allocation Committee that was obtained by the paper on Tuesday showed that total VAT collections by Nigerian Revenue Service stood at 1.08 trillion naira in January, compared with the 913.6 billion naira in December of 2025. That is an 18.5% rise month on month. However, the full 1.08 trillion naira was not available for sharing. Devo, can you give us some more insight on this one? I mean, this definitely means more monies, but what does that mean for Nigerians in general?
Well, I mean, when you hear more money, your mind goes to your new car or your new house. But let's put this in perspective. This administration, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu Shetima administration, if there's an area we'll give them thumbs up, it will be in tax reform, obviously, of which the new finance minister of state is coming in. We'll talk about that later. But the point is, this month they're rolling out some of the reforms that were argued and debated, as you remember, last year at the National Assembly, especially with
Right.
governors, when they were looking at giving some more, let's, in terms of allocation of the taxes to the states. So generally before VAT, that's value added tax, which is sales tax, was about 15% to the federal government, then about 50% to the states, and then the balance goes to the local government. But I think they added 5% to the states and the federal government collects less. So this month it's seen that it had increased to the tune of about 1 trillion, okay, which
Okay.
they're going to share. Now, for us, like we were debating prior to coming on air, the real essence is not that more money is coming. The real essence for citizens, in two ways, is one, VAT, IGR, okay, is still in the article. Is actually what states are being encouraged to improve. VAT, yes, is a federal government tax. CIT, they're all federal government taxes, and normally when they're collected, the federal government eventually shares to the states, which some people claim is what has made states lazy, because instead of states to look at how they can create productivity, revenue points within their jurisdictions, they wait to collect a check from the federal government. Now, the point here is that citizens are meant to monitor, citizens are meant to hold their own government, state governments accountable. What are you able, what have you done with the money? For example, Lagos State has a budget of about 3 trillion. Bayelsa has same budget, of about less than 1 trillion, okay? But Bayelsa collects, what do you call it? Niger, they have the presence of the Niger Delta Ministry. They also collect 13% derivation. They also
Right.
collect their FAC allocation like others. They also collect, they have the presence of the NDDC. Now, you would wonder why Bayelsa, despite being the third in terms of FAC allocation amongst all the states, the 36 states in the country, is among with a population of not less than less than 5 million people, right? Is among the states that cannot pay its civil servants. Please, someone ring a bell for me. How
I
does
wish I have it
all this
right here.
money that accrues to Bayelsa end up, they still can't pay their civil servants with their low populated states? So I'm using this to point a hole to every state because you'll be hearing, oh, increase this, increase that. The point is, how does this translate to your well-being? Okay. Secondly, like I said, to citizens, what is majorly important is do you know what is being done with this money? Now, whilst Lagos has 3 trillion, okay, Abia
Right.
State is one of the tiniest states in the southeast. I think their budget this year, boldly, they went into about nearly 1 trillion. Now, but we've been seeing all manner of developments taking place in Abia State, from power to roads, etc. So if a
All right.
tiny state like that is able to deliver those levels of social services and infrastructure, especially northern states that have so much solid minerals, all manner of activity taking place, you citizens need to begin to question their state governments. Get the state assembly members who are very lazy because these days most state assembly members are pocketed by the executive to begin to account for where this money goes to, what the
All right,
governors are
Devoe.
doing. Last example, Ogun State. Ogun State generally has an advantage because of Lagos. Ogun State should be a replica of Lagos and not smaller than Lagos. But Ogun State does not have roads. So you need to ask yourself, for all the factories and companies in Ogun State, where does all
All
that
right.
money go to? We need to start asking these questions as citizens. This is how we develop our country. In today's, the lesson of today is not to blame government. The lesson of today is to blame citizens for not holding their state governments accountable. If you're not sleeping, your governors should not be sleeping. If you're not sleeping well, your state assembly members should be staying awake all night until they resolve your problems. That's how a democracy works.
Mm.
Okay, so let me quickly jump in and answer the question Devoe raised about Bayelsa, how they're unable to pay salaries. So in the 2026 budget for Bayelsa, they propose to spend 12.7 billion naira for the purchase of canopies, tents, and podiums for various celebrations, including Independence Day, the state's Thanksgiving Day anniversary events, and other important days. Then they plan to spend 100 million naira for Christmas decorations at the government house. The question is, where's the money going? Now you know where the money is going.
If you're not on YouTube, you will not see the perplexed look on my face as Mr. C reeled out. Wait,
12.7
to
billion
buy or to rent?
to buy podiums. So the question is, what did you use last year? What did you use the year before?
Maybe they rented last year before. So they want to own their own right now.
Okay, so 12.7 billion
So it's an investment.
for canopies and tents and
Hey,
podiums
they need good quality.
for 2 or 3 hour events.
Well, what can I say? At least we know where the money is going to now. It is well
So
with our
so
souls.
so let me add a little context to that, just for the glam, right? Okay, so the 12 point whatever billion there for the rents. I'm assuming then that the vendor is a Bayelsan who lives in Yenagua or somewhere. So somehow the money still goes round amongst the contributors of the money.
Keeping the money
Pardon,
keeping the
pardon
money
my,
within the family.
Okay.
it's not intended to be serious, right?
Okay, so
But
let me throw in a final point. For the state-owned Niger Delta University Teaching Hospital, for capital expenditure, the large sum, the whopping sum of 5.5 million naira was spent.
There we are. Lakunle, I'm coming to you right now. Now I'm going to give you the opportunity to choose where exactly it is that we dive into. Where exactly do you want us to go right now? and I'll follow your lead most definitely.
Let's just go to the medical story
Uh,
four,
I, I had a feeling that's where you were
because Mr.
going to
C
head
just
to.
mentioned medical.
Well, the Premium Times is the paper of choice for this one. Now, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, the MDCN, has suspended 3 doctors for alleged medical negligence and professional misconduct in the death of Nkanu Adichie Sege, the 21-month-old son of author Chimamanda Adichie. Now, the panel issued the suspension order after establishing that the doctors had a case to answer regarding the tragic incident. And now, these findings follow an investigation triggered by a formal complaint lodged with the council on the 16th of January. Remember this particular story, Lakunle, and how it unfolded, a lot of back and forth. Now, the MDCN have said the doctors, or 3 doctors, have a case to answer.
Okay. The lighter part first. So, in a country where we say that we don't have enough doctors already, we are suspending 3. That's on a lighter note. But to the serious matter now is this: that have you ever been to any hospital at all in Nigeria in all your life? Do you see the arrogance and the lackadaisical attitude many of these doctors display? Like everybody should roll on the floor and worship them. I have had various experiences with some of them. I know people in Nigeria today who will say to you that if you have to go to the hospital and surgery is involved and there's going to be some form of anesthesia to be applied, you have to see the anesthesia specially outside of whatever you have done with the hospital, to beg, to pray, to whatever. Everyone knows somebody who has done that, right? And I think the foundation of the problem itself is not even now. It is in the training. When we were in the university, do you see the way medical students react and act to the rest of us like the rest of us don't even know book at all? So I think they've carried that thing into the duties that they have to do, that anything they say, you cannot ask them questions. You can. So, and then you go, have you ever been to the emergency ward, accident or emergency in any hospital? You see the way they just leave people in pain and they just walk around. So when you have that kind of a background, that we think that when we go to the hospitals, right, we're still going to have to first of all beg. Yes, they will say that we can have an excuse for them to say, okay, so they are frustrated because they are overworked, they are underpaid, they are all that and all that. But you see, the bottom line still comes to the fact that if you don't like the job, leave it, go to somewhere else where you get, at least all of the people that have been leaving Nigeria to other places today, nobody is holding them to stay back. Though, of course, that's a different argument entirely. But now, when we look at this case, now, do we know the number of people that have also suffered this kind of thing that did not have access to MDCN? The father of the child is a medical doctor, so he has access to MDCN and he has the means to pursue the case in court. That's why this is making the news. Every day, you know the number of people that suffer this kind of treatment that this family has suffered. And I think the MDCN is not just enough to just suspend these people. They should introspect and try to look at the attitude of their members themselves. Think about how the way to make them more human friendly, more passionate about the work they do. We appreciate the work they do because, of course, nobody wants to fall sick. Nobody wants to die because of due to a preventable ailments. You know, so they need to do that self-reflection. They need to bring the training that save the life first, worry about your ego and whatever it is that you think is wrong after. So now again, the legal part of it, I'm now not sure which one should precede the other. Should we not wait for the court to finish before they suspend or take action? Or is this not going to prejudice to the outcome of the court case, or vice versa? Mr. C can advise on that bit of it. But I think much more of the problem is the foundation, that we have trained them to think that anything they say, anyhow they act, they can get away with it, and we need to change that.
We definitely need to change that, Mr. C. I mean, looking at what is going on here, you cannot speak to the legal aspect of it, but I'm pretty sure that even you have a story or the other to tell when it comes to these experiences at the hospitals, especially the private hospitals. It's a very common thing. As luckily also alluded to, if not for the fact that it's happened to whom it happened to, this probably wouldn't be coming to light.
Yeah, you're correct. I tend to agree. So there have been many concerns about the way some of these private hospitals conduct themselves with regards to their interactions with the public. And some of the private hospitals involved are not the bottom of the barrel hospitals. These are supposedly the top hospitals when you supposedly do a ranking. So it's really strange, it's really confusing. Of course, there are many factors to blame. The emigration of qualified doctors,
Right.
both new and experienced, also has its part to play. The abyss, the continuing abyss that is Nigeria, also has its part to play. And then with regards to the suspension, it's standard practice to first suspend pending the outcome of an investigation, because you don't know what if truly the individuals are guilty of negligence. You don't want them affecting another individual or set of individuals before the investigation is completed.
Okay.
So it doesn't impact on what it simply means is they cannot practice as medical doctors. They can do, I'm not sure whether it applies to administrative details, but medically, they can't carry out procedures, they can't issue prescriptions, they can't examine anyone, they can't do consultations.
Until their names are cleared.
Correct.
But but this report, except this report went over and above, says that they are suspended because they are found that they have a case to answer. They've already
So what that phrase means,
indicted them as
Lakunle,
guilty by that statement.
no,
isn't it?
Lakunle, no. What that means is
If you just say
there's
I'm suspending you until we finish and stop there is okay. But saying you have a case to answer means that there's some form of whatever.
no. So luckily, if a man is charged to court for a criminal offense, doesn't mean he's guilty. The prosecution still has to do its case. All they're saying is,
But they won't say he has a case to answer.
so the very filing of charges against any individual means he has a case to answer.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
he can
why
defend himself.
So that's why they're saying we believe there are questions for you to answer, but a judge will determine whether your answers have sufficiently covered the charges. So they're saying you have to come to court.
That's for the court to say,
No,
not the MDCN.
Ewa,
It's the MDCN that
let
says
me
they have
add
a case
something
to answer.
quickly. Whilst we're discussing Chimamanda's case, I think the big issue here is lack of regulation across the whole medical services industry. And it's not just medical services, literally in Nigeria as a whole, because governance has broken down, almost all areas of social service lack service delivery. For example, you see the potholes on our streets. I never knew that in Nigeria, especially taking Lagos for an example, the only time they fix potholes is after the rainy season. Now, after a while, I started wondering, why do you have to wait for the meaning? You will wait for the roads to go bad before they are fixed. That's not how it's meant to work. You're meant to fix it whenever there's a pothole so that you never have potholes. That's why if you travel abroad, you don't see potholes in their streets. In medical services, I mean, everybody has had one experience or the other, be it public clinic, hospital, or private. But when you have incidences, who do you complain to? In schools and education, you know how in short, we bear so much inefficiency within our system because regulation has died. So I'm hoping this will be a wake to the regulatory agencies and all social services to do their jobs. Imagine if there was no NAFDAC. Imagine the level of fake drugs that would be ongoing in this country, even though it's still existing. But imagine if there was no NAFDAC in Nigeria. Guess where we would be by now?
Let me take a message before I come back to you, Devoe. This is a message. Excuse me. This is a message from Shagun who says it's important that analysis of this nature with regards to the MDCN should have someone in the field come and talk on this. As far as I know, we were not trained to treat people with disdain, as you've made it sound. Okay, I'm guessing Shagun is a medical practitioner. Any character of that nature comes down to personality, while not leaving out many other multifactorial possibilities. and he attached the Hippocratic Oath, which is a bit lengthy. I'm not going to dive into that. You can check online for the Hippocratic Oath to better understand what he's referring to. Um, let me see here. This is Deji, who says, about anesthesia in the hospital, plenty have also died due to negligence. I had to bear the pain during a surgical procedure and I paid for full service. I saw stars. Right. Well, it's important to actually note that this is not across board. It's just unfortunate that we have different issues that different people have had to deal with concerning their experiences at hospital at different points in time. But definitely, a lot needs to be done to ensure that we don't have these sort of stories coming out on a regular basis. A lot of people out there can actually speak to one experience or the other, which has not been a good thing. It doesn't mean that people haven't had good experiences in Nigerian hospitals. We need to put that into context as well. All right, Devoe. Should we talk about it? I mean, story one. Okay, that is yes. Talking about the new Minister of State for Finance. The Vanguard is where we're taking the story. And it says President Tinubu has nominated the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, that's Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, as the Minister of State for Finance. Now, he's replacing Dr. Doris Anite Uzoko, who has been redeployed to the Ministry of Budget Planning, Budget and National Planning as Minister of State. Now, that's her own third portfolio in this administration. Devoe, take it away.
Well, I mean, for those who feel bad about Doris Anite's redeployment, all it means, having worked in 3 ministries, started in investments, moved to finance, now she's in budget and planning. What that means that she's well-rounded. That's on the lighter side, please, on the lighter side. Some have felt there's a bit of politics being played there and sectional play. However, the point here is this. I'm not even so excited about Oyedele's entry into the Minister of Finance because the Minister of Finance has problems, major issues. Literally, Nigeria's problem is circling around that ministry because that ministry is one of the super ministries because the head, that's Wale Edu, is not just the Minister of Finance, but he's coordinating Minister of the Economy, what Okonjo-Iweala was in her time. So literally, as the leader of the Economic Council, there's a major problem in the Ministry of Finance. First of all, starting with where's our money? Nigeria has recorded so much increase in revenue, okay? Not to discuss the value, but increase in revenue to the federation, to the states. And you still have many MDAs, that's ministries, departments, and agencies, not getting full allocation. Budget has not been fully funded, okay? Capital votes were moved a year ahead because there was no money. Even recently, there were debates within the House of Representatives of money that they approved, which was available. But at the end of the day, the ministries all said that they didn't get it. So my point is, with Oyedele's presence, is that going to make a difference? Because if I take reference from what happened in the Ministry of Defense, with all our insecurity taking place, banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, back and forth, terrorists having a field day, okay? We thought that the removal of the Minister of Defense, Major Lieutenant General Chris Musa was going to have a difference when they made him Minister of Defense. It just looked as if by making him Minister of Defense, they muted him. Literally, he's not talking, neither is he acting. He's just quiet. So what was the point? And it seems as if there's more politics at play here than governance. So I'm really afraid and at the same time cautious that even the sterling work that he did as a consultant through the presidency as the chairman of the task force, now becoming a minister, the politics of the country will override the technocrat capacity that he has. Because you've noticed each time they call the National Assembly calls the Minister of Finance to question, he always ends up saying, the reason for this can't be said in public. I think we need to have a closed door. Enough! Now, that's on accountability. Secondly, the job that they are meant to do, okay? Beyond funding ministries, departments, and agencies, the Ministry of Finance is responsible for the fiscal strategy of Nigeria. Fiscal strategy, for those who believe it's a big word, most times it was in Buhari's tenure that they destroyed the Ministry of Finance and made the monetary authorities, that was the CBN, like the all in all. No, the CBN is actually like 20% of the work that's in financing Nigeria. The real job is this fiscal strategy, meaning what is your plan to make Nigeria into a productive state? What is the strategy? Do we focus on oil? Do we focus on non-oil? Do we go to agriculture? Do we fund? That is a fiscal strategy. We don't discuss it enough. And the truth is, that's where the problem lies. It's not the CBN, but the people in the Ministry of Finance. So, like I said, I am afraid that Taiwo Oyedele, though with sterling qualities, will be overwhelmed with the politics of Nigeria rather than delivering on a productive economy that he is being appointed to do.
All right, thank you very much, Devoe, for sharing those thoughts. Let me take a couple of messages here as we begin to bring things home on the show. A number of comments have actually come in, and I'd love to get through all of them. This is from Cisco Delgado, who says, Lakunle, please, let's not go there. Most of those doctors are very rude, 100%. Well, the ones you've encountered, Cisco. He says, I could recall what happened when I lost my first son. I nearly fought the doctor, but I was held back by the patients. I can't even begin to imagine the sort of experience that that you must have had, Cisco. Thank you for sharing your message. Shagun says, if the head is rotten, you can't expect any better. Once you have to dance, once you have to dance to pay, once you have to dance to the master.
You have to dance to the pay masters tune.
You have to dance to the pay masters tune. Thank you very much, Mr. C. I was doing mental gymnastics trying to figure that one out. Dr. I in CMS says, morning smooth. The disparaging comments about doctors are totally uncalled for. In my hospital, nothing like begging the anesthetic doctor, the anesthesiologist, for someone who always defends the government's actions that are never accountable for their many actions. These hospitals are reflections of the bad governments we have. Imagine if we could investigate and hold our politicians accountable for the many infractions that they commit. As per the MDCN, the final judgment is when the doctors face the tribunal, which is the highest legal body. Finally, everyone can report infractions to the MDCN. It's better than going to social media, and it will increase accountability for the doctors. Once again, per what I said, a lot of people have many bad experiences. I can also speak personally to this. But I will say again, there are lots of doctors out there who are doing absolutely brilliant work, who are dedicated to what they do. But the point I made, and I will make that point again, is that we need to get to a point, a particular place in our national lives where we don't have stories where people can come out to talk about the horrible experiences they had at the hands of various hospitals. And as Dr. I said, these hospitals need to be held to account because they are a reflection of the sort of country that we live in. It is sad and it is unfortunate, but it is a reality. All right, Emeka Onelum says, in all of this, at the end of the day, the mental health of Chimamanda and her family is what I'm concerned about. I also read that the doctors had to break certain protocols to save the child, which will be used against them. It's a huge dilemma for the health sector also. All right. Let me see. This is from Ibrahim Zakari, who's in Ikwaja, who says, morning smooth. When beggars die, comments are not made. If Nigeria has not happened to you, you will not understand. The rot in Nigeria's system across board is inexplicable. Every day I wake up, I pray to God for Nigeria to not happen to anyone. Tayo in Ajag morning, he says, transfer window in the National Cabinet. Taiwo Oyedele to the Ministry of Finance. Here we go. I wonder who's going to take over from his previous position, but I'm concerned about the lopsided appointment in that ministry. Tayo, the more you look, the less you definitely see. Ajayi Olonilua from Magodo Jerry Sherry says, good morning, gentlemen. The citizens can only hold the government accountable if it's responsible to them. Our democracy is run in such an awkward way in which the local governments are responsible to the state governments, while the state governments are responsible to the federal government. That's why it's the EFCC that's prosecuting them for corruption. I mean, prosecuting them for corruption. I don't think prosecuting would be the right term to use. Well, it depends on what you're trying to say eventually. Joseph Meni in Silver State, Ejibo says, please, gentlemen, where is federal character in all these appointments into sensitive ministries? Late President Buhari made it so glaring. Our President Tinubu has made it worse. He is preaching unity. May God help Nigeria. Tony Marine Beach says, good morning. It's annoying to keep hearing of these hospital tragedies in a country where the sector should have attracted movement from outside our shores. I see Taiwo Oyedele as an honest man. I hope this job in the finance ministry in a country like ours doesn't rubbish his integrity. I pray for him sincerely because I know what political appointments, especially this type, have done to many people. This is Lekon in Lagos. Let me take this one quickly. Lekon in Lagos says, morning crew, I want to ask who wants to invest in a country not secured, economic disaster, no rule of law, no power and infrastructure. The medical tourism has been touring in France. How many so-called world-class hospitals has the president built so far, and so on and so forth? It's a long message. I need to abridge that. Shimondes says, morning, gentlemen. And Lakunle, I don't agree with you saying that all doctors have this ego. Don't discourage the few good men among the many. Patients should know their rights. Let's all exercise the Bill of Rights for all patients. A lot of education needs to happen in that regard. I agree fully. All right, we need to wrap it up. Thank you all for the messages.
Do I have a right of response?
You have 20 seconds, Lakunle.
Okay, great. I didn't say all. I said most of them. And like you said, you go to any hospital, private, public, you will see examples of what we are speaking about. Ask every 10 Nigerian about the experience in the hospital. 8 will have the experience that we are describing, right? And it makes it more painful when it is a parent losing a child, like the case of Chimamanda and her husband in this case. One of the things you never wish on anybody, even your enemy, is for them to lose a child. And we can begin to find excuses for why they act, how they act. But the point is still that there's still a lot that needs to be done about our attitude towards our jobs. And it's not just medical doctors only, everywhere. Go to the civil service in your state secretariat,
right.
You get the same attitude with people. So it's a people problem with us that we need to solve.
All right, Lakunle, thank you for that. And we need to go this morning. It has been an interesting one on Freshly Pressed on this Wednesday morning here on Smooth 98.1. You are all very much appreciated for the messages and always keeping it tuned. Lakunle, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. My heart goes out to everybody who is suffering some form of ailment that needs a medical attention today. I hope they get it. And yeah, let's have a great rest of the week. See you next week, Ayo. Mr. C.
Yes, indeed.
Devoe.
All right, Devoe.
March is for filing tax reports. Please go and file your tax reports. Public service announcement.
Thank you for the PSA, Devoe. Mr. C.
Some of us don't have that problem.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Devoe. Thank you, Lakunle. Thank you, wonderful listeners. And to everyone out there, just do go out and be the best version of yourselves. Take care.
All right, Mr. C, thank you so very much. And thank you for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1, the Smooth Breakfast. Of course, it kicks on 8:15. It's a walk into the locker room, but I will be leaving you in the hands of Brandy right now. He's telling you to wake up, everybody. Hey, I hope you're awake. So much to talk about at 8:15. My name is Ayokunmi. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1.